Well, today I think what we're going to talk about, a couple different stress management techniques that we can use specifically. And then I'm going to have you guys start working on what we're going to call our stress management plans, ways that we can use the techniques that we've learned about today, and how they're either going to positively or negatively affect what we're trying to do. Okay? So today I'm going to pass out your stress management plan worksheets. Okay? What I want you to do is on the back of these worksheets, should be blank on the back, I want you to, we're going to talk about a couple different techniques that we can use. So let's flip everything over and go on the back right now. Okay? And let's talk about some different ways that we can, some different techniques or ways we can manage the stress that we have in our lives. So last week we talked about different stressors. Remind me again, I know, Brian, you said all of school stresses you out, right? Well, what was the test? Tests stress you out, Marco? Homework. Okay. And Kevin, I think, was French class, right? Yes. Well, hopefully Kevin can find his way here this morning. All right, so there are positive ways and negative ways to handle your stress. Okay? To start, let's just go around and come up with some ideas that we have for what you think maybe are unhealthy ways of dealing with stress. So let's start with the unhealthy or the negative ways that we might deal with stress. Eating. Okay, eating too much. That goes right along with drinking too much, right? So yeah, write these ideas down. Maybe you want to label these as unhealthy ways. Okay. That's a good one. Anybody else have any ideas?
What's that called? Oh, bottling it inside and keeping it to yourself, not letting it out.
Good. Right. So I think what Brian is talking about is good, right? It's pretty unhealthy to keep things inside when you start to get stressed out, right? You don't talk about it or work on it. It can build up, and stress becomes stressful, right? Right. What about, for me, when I was in high school, it was all about procrastinating, right? Procrastinating my assignments, and all of a sudden I got a lot of assignments due at the same time. That can be stressful, right? Maybe jot that one down. Procrastination.
Spell that.
Procrastination. Procrastination. What else? You guys think of any other unhealthy ways that we might cope with stress?
Letting it out on your family.
Anger, maybe.
Anger? Yeah, good. I think you guys are talking about the same thing there. Getting angry. Why would that be unhealthy? Sometimes it's okay to get angry at things, right? Sometimes it's good for us as humans to be able to let that emotion out. But why would it be
it's not their fault, So if Tess stressed me out, why is it fair that I get mad at my parents and my sister? So when it's not really their problem.
So you're potentially hurting relationships that you have with family members or friends because you're stressed out. All right. You guys think of anything else? We talked about eating, binge eating, or especially like junk foods, like going to McDonald's and buying a bunch of value meals because you're stressed out, right?
What's it called?
Spend money. That's not about money. Right? People spend money so they feel better about themselves. But is that really relieving any stress? Actually,
it might cause more stress.
Causing more, right? If you don't have the money to spend. Exactly.
I was gonna say losing your faith through overworking yourself, and causing yourself stress, because I'm not sure how to explain it.
Well, let me see if I can help.
Kind of give a net, maybe.
So what I think Brian is talking about is his faith in God, right?
Yeah.
And so, being a religious person, right?
Yeah.
You believe in God. Well, when you get stressed out,
Everything
right?
seems
And
to
correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. Okay. But I think what he's saying is when he gets stressed out, he loses focus on his faith more, and he starts trying to put focus on other things that may not be as important to Brian.
Yeah.
Right? And so Brian's connection with his God and with his religion is strong.
Yeah.
And so when you lose faith in that, and you feel like you're off your path, right?
Yeah.
You're off your life. So that can definitely be caused by stress. Right? You start focusing on other things and losing what may be important to you as an individual. All right, so I think we've got a good list of unhealthy ways. Now, this is a list that we can refer to, right? If we realize that we're starting to do some of these things, maybe we can correct that behavior and change the way that we respond to the stressors that we have. What are some positive ways now that we can deal with them? I've got a few strategies that I want to talk about, but I want you guys to, again, I want to collaborate a little bit and see if you guys can come up with the strategies that I've come up with.
Maybe making a schedule, so
Okay.
like instead of procrastinating, instead you got 3 assignments due on Friday, so you space them out. You do one on Monday, you do one Wednesday, and you do one Thursday night or something, just so that you know what you're doing, and you break it up into small increments so that it's not overwhelming.
Sure. So I think that's a great answer, Cole. And that I think it falls under a category that I have already, and that is avoiding unnecessary stress. Right. So by splitting up your homework assignments and spreading them out over time, now you are avoiding the unnecessary stress of having to do a large assignment in one sitting. Right. So I want you guys to write that down. Avoid unnecessary stress. It's going to be one of our techniques. What else? You guys have any other ideas of positive ways or healthy ways that we can manage our stress?
Maybe talking about stuff, instead of keeping it bottled inside, like talk about it.
Okay.
So expressing your stress or your
Sure. So I think that's good that you're able to talk about what's going on in your life and deal with the stresses that are happening. Let's I think maybe we can dive into that idea even a little bit deeper. Okay? What are things that stress us out, right? We talked about school stresses out or test stresses out. But can you change the fact that you have to go to school?
No.
Can you change the fact that you have to take tests?
No.
No, right? So we can't really change certain things in our life. There are things that we have to do no matter what. And they may be stressful situations, right? Like taking a test for Cole is stressful, but he can't avoid taking tests. All of his teacher gives him tests. So what we can do is accept the fact that sometimes things can't change. And so we have to be willing and able to accept the fact that you're going to have to take tests.
So like being flexible.
So yeah, being flexible and understanding that, there are things that you can't change. Right? So let's write that technique down, okay? You can just write accept the things you can't change. Like I can't be in the NBA. I have to accept that I can't play in the NBA anymore at my age. I would be retiring already. Right? I'd be like Kobe Bryant and on my way out. So I have to accept the fact. Now, the one thing I don't accept, the one thing I feel I can change is I can coach at the college level. I could go on and coach somewhere else, right? And so instead of focusing on the fact that I'm never going to be able to play in the NBA, I turn my focus on something that I can accomplish or I can achieve, right? Setting goals for yourself. We talked about that last week. All right. Any other ideas for positive techniques that you can use? Well, I think Cole kind of talked about it already in the first one we talked about, right? We talked about avoiding unnecessary stress or spreading out that homework over time. Okay. Well, what you're doing there when you're spreading that homework out is you're changing the situation, right? You're altering your situation. So instead of all of a sudden I've got this project that's going to take me 3 hours to do and I got to do it tonight because it's due tomorrow, I'm changing my situation and adapting and being flexible and spreading that assignment out. Okay, so another strategy I want you guys to write down is alter the situation, change the situation. Because if there's one thing that we have as humans and as individuals is we have the power to change what's in our life. Each and every one of you has the power to change what you're doing and the direction that your life is going. Even alcoholics and drug addicts have that power. They can change. It's a lot harder for them because they're stuck within an addiction. But they still have the power to change. All right. Any other ideas? I've got a couple more listed here, but I want to see if you guys can kind of talk and see if we can come up with any other ones.
What about, like, we put eating and drinking, what about, like, exercising or something?
What do you guys think about that?
Something that takes your mind off,
Yeah.
off of stress, like that's healthy. Like I always said, anger is not healthy.
Like a healthy release instead of eating or drinking, you know? Like, you can play basketball or something.
So one of the stress management strategies that I came up with was get moving, right? I think that's excellent. You know, you can put on some music and dance. I know you guys probably aren't the dancing types, but you know that's a possibility, right? Everybody, trust me, anytime you dance, it automatically forces a smile on your face. It's hard to dance and not smile, right? It's really hard to do. Yeah. But you can do other things, like take your dog out on a walk or go play some basketball, right? We talked about that last week. For me, as a student athlete growing up, basketball or sports in general was my release during the day. That was the way I could get out my anger. That's the way I could relieve that stress that I have kind of looming and weighing down on my back, was I was able to get out and just play a sport, be active, get moving. Okay? So good. So we got to get moving. We've got, we talked about avoiding unnecessary stresses. We talked about changing the situation or altering the situation. We also talked about accepting things that we can't change, right? Kind of tying into what we talked about with changing the situation. And I haven't really heard anybody touch on this yet, so I'm just going to talk about is adapting to the stressor. Right? So being able to look at the problem. So let's say your issue is school. Being motivated to come to school and participate in classes and be successful at school, right? That stresses you out. So maybe we can try to reframe the situation. Look at it from a different perspective, right? Think about the bigger picture. So school may stress you out, but you have goals of going to college, right? You want to go to a 4-year school right out of high school. So if that's the case then, right? And we need to adapt to the fact that I'm stressed out from school. Okay? And I'm talking about Brian's example specifically, but we can change that to any of you guys, right? You know, Marco is as stressed out about, what were you stressed out about?
He's got to do his homework to get to college.
Homework, right? So, okay, you can't really change that situation. We can't alter that because you're going to have homework assignments, right? But we have to be willing to accept that we have these homework assignments. And maybe we can make some adaptations to the way that we approach homework to make it less stressful for you. Right? So that could be, you know, adjusting your standards. So saying that, you know, I've got homework for 7 classes and they're all due the next day, well, or they're all due in 2 days, okay? How can I adjust what my teachers are expecting and being able to get it all done on time, right? So, okay, my teacher says it's due in 2 days. I also know that I have 5 other assignments due in 2 days. So I do 2 assignments today, I do 3 assignments tomorrow, right? Or I do a little bit of each assignment and spread it out. Come up with different ways that you can adapt or really change the stress that's happening. So I want you guys to write that down, adapt to the stressor. You did that already. Alright, and the last one that I had was, and I'm surprised, well, there's 2 more. Okay? I'm surprised you guys, of all the people, didn't come up with these 2. The first one is, I think one way to handle stress is when you get stressed out, how do you guys feel?
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
Tired.
Okay. What about emotions? Right. Some other emotions that you feel. When you get stressed out.
Not willing to do anything. Lazy.
Right. So we talked earlier about lazy's good, or we talked earlier about being angry. Right. You get
fat.
angry. Okay. Well, a lot of the stresses that I have dealt with in my lifetime caused me to get angry. They caused me to get sleepy just because I don't want to deal with it, right? I'd rather sleep than handle it, or procrastinate, right? So, but another way that we can handle those stresses is by trying to make them fun. So again, it's kind of ties into changing the situation or altering the situation, but try to make the time that you're spending on those fun, right? So, for example, Marco, you're probably thinking, how can I make homework fun? Homework sucks, right? I don't want to do homework. But, you know, there are ways that you can change and adapt to that. You could do homework with friends, right? You could have a homework group, set up a homework group where you guys all come together and you're all in the same class, you all have the same assignments, and you collaborate on doing it, right?
It's so hard to do because everyone else is so stressed out they can't even do their own work. So you gotta slow down on your own and wait for them, which is not a group. It's just a copy work help group. Like it's honestly like it kind of sucks to say like a lot of kids are dumb. I'm dumb too. I'm not gonna lie, but like there are some subjects that you just struggle on and some subjects that you just excel on.
Sure.
Accordingly, like no one expects you to excel in it, but you are. It's like, but there are those people that even if you do work in a group, it wouldn't matter because they're not doing anything, or they're too good that they're already on the next chapter.
Oh yeah, they're done before you even start.
Yeah.
So I completely understand your concern there, but I have some ideas or techniques that might help with that situation. Right? So, say you wanted to set up a group homework session. Right? The way to relieve those stresses of having a student there that doesn't want to participate is interview the guys that you're going to do the group session with, right? So if you want to put together a group homework session, then obviously I want to invite friends that I'm going to get along with because I'm trying to make homework more fun by doing this, right? So I want friends that I'm going to get along with, but I don't want guys that don't have the same goals and want to achieve the same thing I do, right? Because what is that going to do to Marco if he has another student come in who's distracting him the whole time he's trying to do his homework?
It's not gonna get his homework done.
And you're probably going to get more stressed out, right?
But now I got more to do.
Right.
Just wasted time.
Exactly.
Sometimes that could help relieve your stress if you have a good friend that you just want to talk to, and he's just like chilling there, making you feel good, like they just talking to you, and it's like it just relieves your stress. So it's like you're feeling good because
you guys just through conversation are covering everything that I wanted to talk about. That's the last one I want you guys to write down is engage socially. Okay? A way to relieve stress is exactly what Bryant was just talking about. You have a good friend, go and talk to them about it. Right? I think Cole kind of touched on that earlier and being able to talk about it and get it out instead of letting it build in within you. Right? So being able to engage socially, now you're kind of you're talking to someone that may have the same stress you do, and they may be able to give you ideas of how they manage the stress, right? But two, you're also making it fun, like we talked about our other option, right? By engaging socially, now you're talking, you're having a good time talking to friends or whoever it may be. You could be talking about basketball. It doesn't have to be focused on what you're working on, right? So again, that could be a release is by being able to engage socially. All right, so we talked about, I think, 7 or 8 different techniques there. So now what I want to do is I want to flip the paper over, okay? And now we're going to talk about my stress management plan. So the directions here, we're going to describe 3 different stressors that you face in your life. Okay? We talked about one individually with each of you. You can use that as one of your stressors, but I want you to come up with 2 other ones as well. Okay? And then let's go, Bryant, why don't you read the first bullet point on the top?
suggest at least one negative response you might have to each stressor and explain why it would not be effective. Wait, to handle stress.
Cool.
Describe at least 2 positive responses that would help you manage each stressor. Be specific.
So we talked about negative and positive responses so far. Marco, why don't you read the third one?
Identify which of the stress management techniques you learned today would be most effective with each of these stressors and explain why you chose them.
Okay. So just a quick explanation, doesn't have to be a full essay of why you chose it. Okay? And then the last one says, start or circle a positive response or stress management technique you intend to try in response to one of these stressors in the future. So what I want you guys to do is now take some time and work through, write a stressor out, okay? Suggest a negative response, explain why it's not going to be effective, okay? And just go down the list and fill out each one of these. Okay? This is going to be our way of managing, our way of putting together a plan to help us manage the stress that we have in our lives. So right now, take some time to fill these out, and then we'll talk about them in just a minute. Alright, so you guys took some time to fill out these stress management plans. Let's review them real quick just to see if there's anything we need to work on, okay? So let's go down and let me get a volunteer to do their first stressor. Cool.
I said mine was tests, and my negative response to that was procrastinating. Why isn't it effective? Because it's only going to stress me out more, because I'm going to end up getting a bad grade on the test. My grade in the class is going to lower, and stress me out more. Positive responses is make a plan to study or get help from the teacher that I have. So go into him or her and ask him what's the name of the test, what's some good areas to study. The stress management technique is altering the situation, and it's effective because it's going to help me get a better grade and help me feel more confident and less stressed.
I think that's a fantastic stress management plan you have for tests there.